friends and familiars. That already sounded dumb. Welcome everyone to Queeriosity, where we explore things to do with sexuality and gender identity and probably more than that, but I just thought it sounded cute, so we're going with Queeriosity, and I'll probably think of other silly names for other segments. Today I wanted to focus on gender identity and specifically pronouns. Okay, pronouns. What is a pronoun? A pronoun is a word that refers to either the person talking, so me or I, or to someone or something else, like that or this. Gender pronouns are referring specifically to people that we are talking about, so that's like she, he, them, ze, etc. Commonly used pronouns. We all know the generally used he, him, she. Some people would call these masculine or feminine or male and female pronouns. I think they should be avoided because not everyone that uses those labels feels like a male or masculine or feels like a female or feminine. They, them, theirs is one of the more common gender-neutral pronouns. They was actually voted Word of the Year in 2015. There's also Z and here. Here is spelt H-I-R and Z is Z-E. I think there are variations of spelling. I actually found a how-to guide and a general list of some of the more commonly used pronouns and how to use them in different sort of tenses in language. Different tenses, Some people just prefer their name, so just Ash, please. Then you'd say Ash ate Ash's food because Ash was hungry. It says it on the how-to guide, but I figured just a good little thing to interject with. This guide is just a general guide to give you examples of how pronouns may be used. It's always better just to ask someone what their pronouns are. Just avoid misgendering someone completely. I've seen a few people, mostly online, thank goodness, and not actually in my day-to-day life and with the people that I surround myself with, people questioning why they should respect people's pronouns and gender identity. For someone with general compassion, this might seem like a ridiculous question because, of course, you should respect someone's gender identity and respect their pronouns. It's as simple as that. I do acknowledge that sometimes it is easy to forget, and we're humans, it's easy to make mistakes, so it's probably going to happen that you'll make some mistakes. I have friends that I've accidentally misgendered multiple times. The trick there, you stop, you apologise and you correct yourself. That's the key. Acknowledge that you've made a mistake. If someone tells you that you've misgendered them, apologise. If you realise later that you may have misgendered someone, shoot them a message and just ask what their pronouns are and apologise for using the wrong pronouns. It's just basic common decency, I don't know. I feel like everyone thinks that the being corrected is usually like this heated and argumentative discussion on pronouns, and it's just not. Usually it's a calm like, oh, no, sorry, wrong pronouns, and you just apologise and move on. A brief history of gender non-binary people and trans people. Or gender non-binary language. Damn it! Anglo-Saxons used to use a or or ow as a normative gender-neutral pronouns. In 1858, there was a composer, what's his name? Charles Crozat Converse was working with thons, thonsel, Thons, and that those terms were actually included in the Merriam-Webster's International Dictionary. In 1920, we had David Lindsay coining the term a in their novel A Voyage to Arcturus, which began a big exploration in gender in sci-fi movies and pop culture. As we go further from... Where were we? We were in 1920. As we go further from then through, 70s, 80s, 90s, up to now, those people are learning more and expressing their gender identities more comfortably. What happened in these times for this explosion of these pronouns? Social media. We had the internet. People that felt separated from a lot of other people could now communicate in LGBTQI plus chat rooms and online groups. And they could communicate about these issues and communicate their feelings and express themselves properly in the way they wanted to. So it just created an explosion of creative gender neutral and gendered pronouns. But they're just new forms of language that have developed through our comfortability with discussing these things and disclosing these things. It's actually better to refer to them as gender-inclusive pronouns and not gender non-binary pronouns, because doesn't encompass all pronouns. Exact same way as I know it's better to refer to someone's pronouns as their pronouns and not preferred pronouns, because gender identity is not a preference. It's a human right to be referred to as your identity. I don't even know if I'm filming anymore. Now, in the English language, they, them, theirs is the most commonly used epicene, while they, them, theirs remains one of the most widely used pronouns. They're not the only ones used. It's important to understand this. And some people can have multiple gender identities and multiple pronouns, like he, they, she, they. Some pronouns can even be context dependent, and some pronouns change as people become more comfortable coming out and experiencing their gender and experiencing living in the body that they are in. I want to go through some general rules. These are just like rules of thumb for not being a jerk. 1. Always respect people's pronouns, whatever they are. 2. Never deliberately misgender someone. Misgendering someone is offensive, rude, and it's cruel. Rule number 3, it's typically okay to ask someone what their pronouns are. Again, it's probably better to ask what are your pronouns very directly than what are your preferred pronouns, because these pronouns are not a preference. But something to keep in mind and something to try to really include in your use of language. If you've been reading the DSM to catch up with it, with gender dysphoria for the whole time, it was called something else other than gender dysphoria. So names in psychology change very quickly and rapidly given updated science as we go. So it's just something to stay aware of and keep checking up on. Tip for asking someone their pronouns, it's probably better if you introduce yourself first and it's one-on-one. That's rule number 4. Inviting people to give their pronouns in front of a group of people might be nice, but you should in no way make it mandatory. That should go without saying. Rule 5. If you do misgender someone accidentally, correct yourself, apologise, and move on. You can keep using the correct pronouns to try to set it in your memory a bit better. The main thing there is genuinely apologise. If you realise that you've misgendered someone after the fact, maybe shoot them a message and say, hey, I'm sorry. Problem solved. Find out their gender, use it. Right, I want to step a little bit into gender dysphoria and what psychology and medicine say about these things, because I've found it quite interesting, just that the understanding's grown so much as I've been studying it at uni. Anyway, I digress. Gender identity is, very simply put, how you perceive your gender. It's how you show your gender to others and how you want others to treat you accordingly. Nothing to do with biological sex. It's got nothing to do with genitals. None of that. Gender dysphoria is a severe discomfort or distress caused from a person's gender identity not aligning with their biological sex. This misalignment is what causes the distress. If you're a psychiatrist and misgender anyone, just purposefully, you're a fucking asshole. Yeah, so the prevalence of gender dysphoria is very hard to track because of the fear of coming out, fears of discrimination. These people have extremely high rates of depression and anxiety. So the numbers reported of people experiencing gender dysmorphia are very, very hard to tell, and probably a lot less than have been reported, though those numbers are going up steadily as understanding does also increase. So that's a good thing. For any GPs watching this video, which you probably should be watching or learn, you should probably be reading a book. If you are a general practice doctor and someone comes in and is reporting feelings of gender dysphoria, the usual course of treatment, probably pass on to a specialist, but it'd be a very individualised treatment as every person is different. And it can include a mix of hormones, therapy, social work, surgeries, counselling, all of the above, some of the above. While the DSM-5 does state that there's earlier onset gender dysmorphia. Did I say dysmorphia? I meant dysphoria. Earlier onset gender dysphoria and later onset gender dysphoria, potentially due to confounding variables like fear of parents or family members not understanding. But despite this difference in time when it can emerge, it's not considered a phase. It's not something that someone fades in and out of. Later disclosure does not indicate the veracity of the person's gender identity. It does not indicate the credibility of their coming out. It's none of that. So I wanted to be very stern in saying that, while the DSM, because I feel like there's definitely some people that sort of skim scientific articles or scientific literature to find their point. They want to make their point, they grab that bit out and they put it on videos exactly like this one, which hopefully I'm not doing. Please correct me on absolutely anything, leave any questions or comments, because honestly this is like an open learning experience. It's called Queeriosity because I'm curious and queer. So let me know if I have misspoken, or if you've got questions, or if I haven't thought about something, or if I've missed something, anything like that. Let me know. But I just wanted to specify that despite the DSM saying, yes, there are later emergences in people's lives of gender dysphoria, it does not in any way mean that that person coming out and realising the causes of that distress is less credible than, say, a child having gender dysphoria issues. I want to chuck in a bit of a trigger warning just because we are going into talk about some of the heavier stuff to do with gender dysphoria, including attempts at conversion therapy and reparative therapy. These themes may cause some upset. They may be not offensive isn't the right word, but to some sensitive viewers, especially if you're sensitive to talk of these sort of therapies, conversion therapies, if you've been involved in anything like that. I live in Victoria, in Australia, and it was only in 2019 that this reparative therapy was made illegal, it was just conversion therapy, similar to what they'd use for homosexuality. This was after report coming forward of this therapy causing more distress and harm than anything else and having no effect on someone's gender identity, because it's not something that could be changed. Some of the more recent treatments have sort of featured a more spiritual aspect. There's absolutely no evidence that approaching this issue spiritually can change a person's gender identity. There's been no evidence that these therapies work, and there's a lot of evidence that these forms of therapy cause major harm. Pedal to the metal if you're anywhere else in Australia, because I'm unsure. I think New South Wales might have done it. The most recent article I'm reading is from 2019, because I did a little bit of a lazy research. It wasn't too much. It was more of a lazy research because I'm currently in between unis as I'm enrolling in my master's, and so I can't access the scientific literature for free. So I've been having to access more public studies, and I'm not satisfied just reading an abstract, so it's hard to find good information that allows me to see the full article to the extent that I'd like, to be able to see their references and methods, just everything, to be able to access that. I'm finding it a little bit difficult, so research is slightly slower. What did we learn? We learned that people saying that the science argues against transgender and non-binary people is bullshit. The science supports these people. The science has always been there. These people saying that it doesn't, maybe can't read. I don't know. Maybe you should buy them a kid's pop-up book to start. Maybe I should make a pop-up book on pronouns. We learned, don't be an asshole. And don't misgender people. Especially not on purpose. Accidentally apologise, correct yourself and move on. If you purposefully misgender someone, you're a jerk. That's it. You're just a jerk. Don't do it. Seriously, don't freaking do it. I'll get you.